I used to believe love could survive anything. Money could disappear. Dreams could fail. Life could knock us down again and again. But if two people refused to let go of each other's hands, nothing else mattered. At least, that's what I believed. One Friday evening, I walked into the small apartment carrying 2 grocery bags. "Chloe," I called. "I'm in the kitchen." I smiled. "I bought your favorite pasta." She looked over her shoulder for barely a second. "Oh, thanks." Something felt different. Normally she'd run over and hug me. Tonight she stayed where she was, staring at her phone. I set the groceries down. "Everything okay?" "Yeah." "You don't sound okay." "I'm just tired." I stepped closer. "Work again?" She nodded without looking at me. I gently touched her shoulder. "We'll get through this." "We always do." She forced a smile. I know. I wanted to believe that smile. For 4 years, we'd built our lives from almost nothing. We lived in tiny apartments, shared one old car, split every bill, skipped vacations, ordered cheap takeout instead of fancy dinners. Every sacrifice felt worth it because we made them together. Many nights we'd sit on the apartment roof. She would lean against me and whisper, "One day we'll laugh about these hard times." I'd kiss her forehead. "I promise." Back then, promises sounded permanent. The following Monday, I arrived outside her office to surprise her with lunch. She walked outside laughing. But she wasn't alone. A tall man in an expensive suit opened the passenger door of a black luxury car. He smiled. "So, dinner tonight?" Chloe smiled back. "I'd love that." My feet stopped moving. She hadn't seen me yet. The man handed her a small gift box. She laughed. "You really didn't have to." "I wanted to." She accepted it. Then she finally looked up. "Ethan." I forced a smile. "Hey." Her face immediately changed. "What are you doing here?" "I brought lunch." The man looked at me. "And you are?" Before I could answer, Chloe spoke. "This is Ethan." Just Ethan. Not my boyfriend. Not the man she'd spent 4 years with. Just Ethan. The man extended his hand. "Logan Pierce." I shook it. "Ethan Carter." He smiled politely. "I've heard a little about you." I hadn't heard anything about him. I looked at Chloe. "You didn't tell me you had plans." They came up suddenly. "I see." Logan checked his watch. "I'll wait in the car." He walked away. The silence between us felt heavier than ever. I finally asked, "Who is he?" "My client." "Clients buy jewelry?" Her eyes narrowed. "Don't start. I'm asking." "It was a thank you gift." "For what?" She crossed her arms. "Why does it matter?" I stared at her. "Because you're my girlfriend." She sighed loudly. "You always make everything complicated." "I make it complicated?" "I have to go." She picked up the gift box. "I'll call you later." I watched her leave with Logan. That afternoon, I couldn't focus on work. Every question kept repeating inside my head. Who was he? Why hadn't she told me? Why did she seem happier with him than she'd been with me in weeks? That night, she came home late. I was waiting on the couch. "You never called." "I got busy." "With Logan?" She froze. Then she slowly placed her purse on the table. "He's helping my career." "Career?" "He has connections." "And jewelry." She looked away. "It was only a gift. I've never been able to buy you something like that." "Ethan, I'm trying." "I know." "No." I shook my head. "You don't know. I work 12 hours every day because I want us to have a better future." She stayed silent. I thought we were building that future together. She finally whispered, "I'm tired." "So am I." "No." She looked directly into my eyes. "I'm tired of waiting." Those words hit harder than any slap. I swallowed. "What does that mean?" She didn't answer. Instead, she quietly walked into the bedroom and closed the door. I remained on the couch until sunrise. For the first time in 4 years, I wasn't afraid of being poor. I barely slept. Every hour, I kept hoping she would walk out of the bedroom, sit beside me, and say, "I'm sorry. I was wrong." She never did. The next morning, she quietly grabbed her coffee. "Morning," she said. "Morning." She noticed I hadn't moved from the couch. "You stayed here all night?" I couldn't sleep. She looked guilty for a second. Then her phone buzzed. She smiled at the screen. That smile wasn't for me. I couldn't stop myself. Is it Logan? She slipped the phone into her purse. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Ethan, please. No. I stood up. I deserve the truth. She took a deep breath. The truth? Yes. You really want it? I do. She looked straight into my eyes. I'm exhausted. I know. No. She shook her head. I'm exhausted from living paycheck to paycheck. We're getting there. When? I'm working every day. For what? Our future. She laughed softly. Our future keeps getting pushed further away. I felt my chest tighten. I thought you believed in us. I used to. Silence filled the apartment. Then she whispered the words I never imagined hearing. I'm tired of struggling, Ethan. I stared at her. What are you saying? I'm saying I can't keep living like this. So money matters more than us? It isn't just money. Then what is it? I want stability. I can give you that. When? I don't know. She closed her eyes. Exactly. The room suddenly felt too small. I tried one last time. Chloe. She interrupted me. Logan offered me a different life. My heart stopped. You've been seeing him? We've been spending time together. For how long? A few months. A few months. My voice cracked. And you never told me? I didn't know how. You lied every single day. I never wanted to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. You've already done that. She picked up her suitcase from beside the bedroom door. I hadn't even noticed she'd packed. My voice became almost a whisper. You planned this. She looked down. Yes. You were going to leave today. Yes. I couldn't breathe. So 4 years. I swallowed hard. Were they real? She wiped away a tear. They were. Then why? Because love isn't enough anymore. I stepped back as if she'd push me. It was enough for me. She reached toward me. I'm sorry. I moved away. No. Ethan, don't. She slowly lowered her hand. A car horn sounded outside. We both knew who it was. She looked toward the window. He's here. I nodded without speaking. She picked up her suitcase. Each step toward the front door sounded louder than the last. She stopped beside me. I truly hope you find happiness. I forced myself to answer. I hope you find what you're looking for. She opened the door. Then she walked away. I followed her to the window without thinking. Logan stepped out of a black luxury car, wearing an expensive suit. He smiled the moment he saw her. He took her suitcase. Then he wrapped his arm around her shoulders. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned closer to him. The car door closed. Seconds later, it disappeared down the street. I stood there long after it was gone. The apartment suddenly felt empty. Every photo on the wall reminded me of promises that no longer existed. I picked up the picture from our first vacation. We'll grow old together, she'd said that day. My hands shook. The frame slipped from my fingers and shattered on the floor. I didn't even bother cleaning it up. Hours passed before someone knocked. I opened the door. Grace. My older sister looked at my face for 1 second before pulling me into a hug. What happened? I couldn't answer. She walked inside and noticed the broken frame. Then she saw Chloe's empty closet. Oh, Ethan. She left. Grace stayed quiet. She chose someone else. She squeezed my shoulder. I'm so sorry. I wasn't enough. Don't say that. It's true. No. Her voice became firm. She made a choice. That doesn't decide your worth. I sat on the couch. I gave her everything I had. I know. It still wasn't enough. Grace sat beside me. You know who called me yesterday? I looked at her. Marcus Hayes. I frowned. My old mentor? She smiled gently. He asked about you. Why? Because he still believes you're capable of much more than the job you're doing now. I shook my head. I can't think about work. You have to. My life just fell apart. I know. She held my hand. But if you stay here feeling sorry for yourself, you'll lose more than Chloe. I stayed silent. Meet Marcus. I don't know. Just one meeting. What difference will it make? Grace smiled. Sometimes one conversation changes an entire life. That evening, after Grace left, I walked onto the apartment roof. The city lights stretched endlessly in front of me. This was where Chloe and I used to dream together. Now I stood there alone. The pain was still unbearable. Part of me wanted to run after her, to beg, to ask for another chance. Instead, I closed my eyes. I took one slow breath. Then I made myself a promise. Not out loud. Not for anyone else to hear. Only for me. One day, I won't chase people who choose to leave me. One day, they'll remember the man they walked away from. And for the first time since Chloe left, 3 months passed. I didn't call Chloe. I didn't text her. I didn't drive past her apartment hoping to see her. Some mornings, I still reach for my phone before remembering she was no longer part of my life. It hurt every time, but I kept my promise. Instead of chasing the past, I started chasing a future I had almost given up on. One Monday morning, I walked into Marcus Hayes' office. He looked up from a stack of papers and smiled. "You made it." I almost didn't. I figured. He pointed to the chair across from him. "Sit down." I took a seat. Marcus folded his hands. "So, are you here because your sister forced you?" I laughed for the first time in weeks. "Maybe a little. I'll take that." He leaned forward. "Tell me something, Ethan. What do you think your biggest weakness is?" "My confidence." He shook his head. "No." "My experience?" "No." I frowned. "Then what?" "You let other people's opinions decide your value." His words landed harder than I expected. "You built your whole life around someone else's approval." I looked down. "I guess I did." Marcus nodded. "That ends today." "How?" "You stop asking who rejected you." He smiled. "And start asking who needs you." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he slid a folder across the desk. "Open it." I flipped through the pages. "Leadership development?" "It's a 6-month program." "I've never managed a team." "Exactly. So why me?" "Because I don't invest in finished products." He smiled. "I invest in potential." I stared at the folder. "What if I fail?" Marcus laughed. "You will." I blinked. "What?" "You'll fail." He shrugged. "Probably more than once." "That doesn't sound encouraging." "It is." He leaned back. "Failure teaches faster than success." I slowly nodded. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow." The next morning felt like the first day of school. The training room was filled with professionals from different companies. Some wore expensive suits. Others talked confidently about million-dollar projects. I suddenly felt out of place. Marcus walked beside me. "Nervous?" "A little." "Good." "What?" "It means you care." He opened the classroom door. "Now go prove you belong." The first week was brutal. Every assignment pushed me beyond my comfort zone. During one presentation, I completely lost my train of thought. My voice disappeared. The room became silent. Afterward, I found Marcus waiting outside. I embarrassed myself. "You learned something." I froze. "What caused it?" I was afraid of looking stupid. He nodded. "So next time, I focus on solving the problem instead of worrying about people's opinions." Marcus smiled. "Now you're learning." Weeks turned into months. Every mistake became another lesson. Every challenge made me stronger. Slowly, the version of me Chloe had left behind started disappearing. One evening I arrived home exhausted. Out of habit, I opened social media. The first picture I saw stopped me cold. Chloe, standing beside Logan on a private yacht. Both of them smiling. The caption read, "Living the dream." I stared at the screen. For a second, all the old pain came rushing back. I almost closed my laptop. Instead, I whispered to myself, "Keep going." I clicked the picture away. Then I opened my leadership notes instead. The next morning, Marcus noticed my tired face. "You worked late." I did. "Worth it?" "I think so." He smiled. "Good." Then he placed another envelope on the desk. "This one's different." I looked at it. "What is it?" "An opportunity." I opened the envelope. The logo at the top caught my attention immediately. Monroe Technologies. I looked back at Marcus. "What is this?" He smiled proudly. "I recommended you for their executive leadership program." I couldn't believe what I was reading. "You recommended me?" "I did, but there are people with better resumes." "Maybe." He pointed at me. "But they don't have your determination." I took a slow breath. "When's the interview?" The next morning, I stood outside the glass building of Monroe Technologies. I looked up at the company logo and whispered, "Don't waste this chance." A receptionist greeted me with a smile. Good morning. Your name? Ethan Carter. She checked her tablet. Welcome, Mr. Carter. Please take the elevator to the 15th floor. My hands felt cold as I stepped inside. A few minutes later, I walked into a modern conference room where 6 other candidates were already waiting. A woman with dark brown hair looked up from her notebook. She smiled. You must be Ethan. I am. I'm Olivia Brooks. I shook her hand. Nice to meet you. She pointed to the empty chair beside her. Looks like we're teammates for today's exercise. I sat down. Nervous? A little. She laughed. Good. I'd be worried if you weren't. Before I could answer, a tall man entered the room. His sharp suit and serious expression immediately commanded attention. Good morning, he said. I'm Daniel Foster, Chief Financial Officer. The room became silent. Daniel looked around before stopping in front of me. Ethan Carter? Yes, sir. I've reviewed your background. I waited. He folded his arms. You have talent. Thank you. But talent isn't leadership. His words caught me off guard. You've never managed executives. No. You've never negotiated billion-dollar contracts. No. So tell me. He looked directly into my eyes. Why should this company invest in you? I took a slow breath. Because I'll never stop learning. He raised an eyebrow. That's your answer? It's the truth. I don't know everything. I probably never will. But I promise I'll work harder than anyone in this room. Daniel stared at me for several seconds. Then he simply nodded. We'll see. The day's challenges were tougher than anything I'd faced before. Our team had to solve business problems under impossible deadlines. Whenever people argued, Olivia quietly organized everyone's ideas. During one discussion, she whispered, You're seeing something we're missing. I looked at the charts again. The numbers don't match. What do you mean? The company's spending isn't the real problem. I pointed to another report. The communication between departments is. Olivia smiled. Say it. I stood. I think we're solving the wrong problem. The room turned toward me. I explained my reasoning step by step. When I finished, Daniel slowly closed his notebook. Interesting. Another executive nodded. I agree. Olivia quietly bumped my shoulder. Nice job. By the end of the week, I felt different. Not because I had all the answers. Because I wasn't afraid to speak anymore. A few days later, I met Olivia in the cafeteria. She placed 2 cups of coffee on the table. One for you. You didn't have to. I know. She smiled. But partners help each other. I laughed. We're partners now? I hope so. I lifted my cup. Then here's to surviving this program. She clinked her cup against mine. To surviving. That evening, while leaving the building, I noticed someone standing near the entrance. Marcus. How did it go? He asked. I think I survived. He laughed. That's progress. I met some incredible people. I heard. You heard? He smiled mysteriously. People notice more than you think. Weeks passed. The program became my entire world. I arrived before sunrise. I left after sunset. Every project stretched my limits. Every success gave me confidence I had never felt before. One night, I opened social media again. Another picture of Chloe appeared. She was wearing an expensive dress beside Logan at a charity gala. The comments praised their perfect life. But one familiar name caught my attention. Sarah Collins. She had commented only 3 words. Are you happy? For some reason, that question stayed in my mind. I closed the app without reading anything else. The next morning, an assistant approached me. Mr. Monroe would like to see you. My heart skipped. Now? Yes. I followed her to the top floor. The office overlooked the entire city. An older man stood beside the window. He turned and smiled. Ethan Carter. Mr. Monroe. He shook my hand firmly. I've been watching your progress. Thank you, sir. I've also been reading every evaluation. I stayed quiet. He walked toward his desk. Daniel says you're inexperienced. I am. He also says you learned faster than anyone he's seen. I couldn't hide my surprise. Richard smiled. Do you know what impresses me most? No, sir. You never blame anyone. He looked directly into my eyes. You take responsibility. I try to. He nodded slowly. Character can't be taught. The room fell silent. Then he said the words that changed everything. I'm preparing someone to lead this company. He paused. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. 3 years passed faster than I ever imagined. The broken man who had stood alone on an apartment rooftop no longer existed. Every early morning, every late night, every failure, every lesson, they had shaped me into someone stronger. One Monday morning, Richard Monroe asked me to meet him in the boardroom. When I walked in, every executive was already seated. Daniel Foster smiled. You're right on time. I try to be. Richard stood at the front of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, thank you for being here. The room became silent. He looked toward me. Ethan, come stand beside me. My heart started racing. I walked to the front. Richard placed a hand on my shoulder. When I built Monroe Technologies, I promised myself I would leave it in the hands of someone who valued people more than power. He paused. I've spent years searching. He smiled. I finally found that person. I barely breathed. Richard looked around the room. Effective today. He paused once more. Ethan Carter will become the new Chief Executive Officer of Monroe Technologies. The room erupted into applause. I couldn't move. Richard leaned closer. Congratulations, son. Thank you. My voice almost disappeared. I won't let you down. I know. Daniel stood and offered me his hand. I owe you an apology. I looked at him. For what? I underestimated you. I smiled. You challenged me. I did. And I needed that. He nodded. I won't make that mistake again. We shook hands. At that moment, I realized something. Respect always felt better when it was earned. Later that afternoon, Olivia knocked on my new office door. May I come in? Always. She stepped inside carrying 2 coffee cups. I figured CEOs still need caffeine. I laughed. I definitely do. She handed me one. So, she looked around the enormous office. How does it feel? I slowly turned toward the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Strange. Only strange. I expected this moment to make me feel different. And I still feel like the guy who ate instant noodles 4 nights a week. Olivia smiled warmly. That's exactly why Richard chose you. I looked at her. You think so? I know so. She sat across from me. You remember where you came from? I nodded. I never want to forget. The following weeks became a whirlwind. Every morning started before sunrise. Board meetings, investor calls, factory visits, international video conferences, business dinners, contract reviews. Every decision affected thousands of employees. Sometimes I stood alone in my office after everyone had gone home. I'd look at the city lights and whisper, don't waste this opportunity. One evening Grace called. So, she laughed. Mr. CEO, please don't start. I can't help it. You still sound like my annoying big sister. I am. She became quiet. I'm proud of you. I smiled. Thank you. Dad would have been proud too. I looked out the window. I hope so. He would. After hanging up, I opened the small drawer in my desk. Inside was the old photo frame I had never thrown away. The glass was still cracked. The picture of Chloe and me was faded around the edges. I stared at it for several seconds. Then I quietly placed it back inside. Some memories didn't need to disappear. They only needed to stay where they belonged. In the past. The next morning, Olivia entered my office carrying a thick folder. We have a problem. I looked up. What happened? A company called Pierce Innovations wants an emergency partnership. The name caught my attention immediately. Pierce. She nodded. The CEO is Logan Pierce. I stayed silent. They're losing investors. She continued flipping through the reports. They've suffered major financial losses during the last year. I slowly leaned back. I see. Olivia looked at me carefully. Do you know him? I answered honestly. Yes. Personally, I took a deep breath. More than I'd like. She didn't ask another question. Instead, she handed me the file. The board wants you to lead the negotiations tomorrow morning. I looked at Logan's name printed across the first page. For years, I had imagined meeting him again. Now fate had arranged it itself. I quietly closed the folder. Prepare the conference room. Olivia nodded. I'll take care of everything. As she walked out, I couldn't stop thinking about one question. The next morning, I arrived before everyone else. I stood inside the conference room, looking at the skyline through the glass walls. Olivia walked in carrying a tablet. "Everything is ready. Thank you." She looked at me for a moment. "You've been quiet." "I'm thinking." "About the meeting?" I nodded. She smiled gently. "Whatever happened in your past?" She paused. "Don't let it make today's decision for you." I smiled. "I won't." She gave me a reassuring nod. "I know you won't." A few minutes later, Daniel entered. He placed a folder on the table. I reviewed Pierce Innovations' financial reports. "What did you find?" "They're running out of options." "That's serious?" He nodded. "If this partnership fails, they'll lose their largest investors." I closed the folder. "Then today isn't about power." Daniel looked at me. "It's about making the right business decision." A small smile appeared on his face. "That's exactly what a CEO should say." The board members slowly filled the room. Everyone took their seats. Olivia leaned toward me. "They've arrived." I straightened my tie. "Send them in." The conference room door opened. Logan Pierce walked in first. His expensive suit couldn't hide the exhaustion on his face. The confident smile I remembered was gone. He extended his hand. "Good morning." I stood. "Good morning." We shook hands. He looked at me for a second. Something about my face seemed familiar to him, but he couldn't place it. Behind him, two executives entered. Then, the door opened one more time. Chloe walked inside carrying a folder. She was smiling as she spoke to Logan. "I told you this meeting would go well." She took two more steps. Then she looked toward the head of the table. Our eyes met. Everything stopped. The smile disappeared from her face. The folder slipped from her hand and landed on the floor. Her lips parted. Her eyes filled with complete disbelief. She barely managed to whisper, Ethan?" The room became perfectly silent. No one moved. No one spoke. I looked at her calmly. "Good morning, Chloe." She stared at me as if she had seen a ghost. Her voice trembled. "I don't understand." Logan slowly turned toward her. "You know the CEO?" She couldn't answer. She just kept staring at me. Finally, she whispered, "You." I nodded once. "Yes." She looked around the room, then back at me. "You're the CEO of Monroe Technologies." She covered her mouth. For the first time since she had walked away from me, she looked completely lost. Logan frowned. "You two know each other?" I answered before Chloe could speak. "We've met." Chloe lowered her eyes. Her silence said everything. Daniel cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" I took my seat. "Please." Everyone slowly sat down. Logan opened his presentation. "Our company believes this partnership could benefit both sides." I listened carefully. He spoke about market expansion, cost reductions, future investments. I asked questions. He answered each one professionally. No anger, no revenge, only business. Several times I noticed Chloe looking at me. Every time our eyes met, she quickly looked away. Halfway through the meeting, Daniel asked, "What guarantees can you offer?" Logan hesitated. "We're restructuring." Daniel remained calm. "That wasn't my question." Logan took a breath. "We can provide additional assets as security." I quietly reviewed the documents. Then I looked up. "Your proposal has potential." Hope immediately returned to Logan's face. But the room became silent again. "There are risks your presentation doesn't address." Logan nodded. "We're willing to negotiate." I expected that. Olivia handed me another report. I glanced through it before speaking. "We'll need additional financial disclosures before moving forward." Logan looked disappointed, but he nodded. "That's fair." I closed the folder. "We'll continue after our legal team reviews everything." The meeting officially ended. Board members slowly left the room. Daniel stopped beside me. "You handled that well." "I did my job." "No." He smiled proudly. "You proved why Richard chose you." After everyone else walked out, I gathered my papers. I heard quiet footsteps behind me. I turned around. Chloe was standing near the door. Her eyes were filled with emotions I couldn't read. She swallowed hard. "I never imagined." Neither had I. She looked around the empty room before whispering, "You really became the man you always said you would." I held her gaze. "I became the man I needed to become." She lowered her head. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she quietly turned and walked away. As the conference room door closed behind her, I realized something. The greatest victory wasn't watching her regret her choice. It was sitting in that chair with 3 weeks passed after the negotiation meeting. Business continued moving forward. So did I. Every morning started with board meetings. Every afternoon ended with decisions that affected thousands of employees. For the first time in my life, people trusted me to lead. One afternoon, Daniel walked into my office carrying several reports. "You should see these." I looked up. "What happened?" He placed the files on my desk. Government investigators opened an inquiry into Pierce Innovations. I opened the first report. "What kind of inquiry?" "Financial misconduct." I slowly turned another page. "There are allegations of false accounting." Daniel nodded. "And hidden company debts." I stayed quiet. "How bad is it?" He folded his arms. "Worse than anyone expected." I closed the file. "I want Monroe Technologies completely separated from this." "It already is." "Good." Daniel smiled. "You really don't enjoy watching people fail." "No. I've noticed." I leaned back. "I know what failure feels like." He nodded respectfully. "That's why people follow you." After he left, Olivia entered with my afternoon schedule. "You have interviews at 2. "I know." "Investor meeting at 4. "I remember." She hesitated. "There's something else." "What is it?" She looked uncomfortable. "Someone has been asking to see you." I already knew the answer. "Chloe." She nodded. "Every day this week." "What did you tell her?" "That you're busy." I smiled slightly. "Because I am." Olivia didn't smile back. She looked different. I looked at her. "What do you mean?" "Sad." I stayed silent. Olivia carefully placed another folder on my desk. "You don't have to meet her." "I know." "You also don't have to avoid her forever." I looked out the window. "I'm not avoiding her." "What are you doing?" "I'm protecting the peace I worked so hard to find." Olivia nodded slowly. "I understand." Before leaving, she quietly said, "Sometimes healing means closing a door instead of reopening it." Her words stayed with me long after she left. Later that evening, I walked through the company lobby. The receptionist stood up. "Mr. Carter?" "Yes." "Someone's waiting for you." I turned. Chloe slowly stood from one of the chairs. She looked nothing like the confident woman from years ago. Her eyes were tired. The expensive smile she used to wear had disappeared. She took one cautious step toward me. "Hi." I answered politely. "Hello." "I know you're busy." "I am." "I only need 5 minutes." I looked at my watch. "You have 3." She gave a weak smile. "I guess I deserve that." Neither of us spoke for a moment. Finally she whispered, "I've been trying to reach you." "I know." "You never answered." I didn't think there was anything left to say. She lowered her eyes. "There wasn't." She paused. "Until now." I waited. She took a deep breath. "Things aren't what they seem." I stayed calm. "What do you mean?" "Logan." She stopped speaking. I could see she was struggling. "What about him?" "He isn't the man I thought he was." I didn't respond. She continued quietly. "He only cares about appearances." Her voice shook. "If people are watching, he's charming. And when they're not," she looked away. "I don't even recognize him anymore." I folded my hands. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because." Tears gathered in her eyes. "I finally understand what I lost." I remained silent. She laughed bitterly. "I spent years chasing the life I thought I wanted. And I was wrong." I didn't interrupt. She looked directly at me. "I thought money could replace love. It can't. I know that now." I nodded once. "I'm sorry you had to learn it that way." She wiped her eyes. "I hurt you." "Yes." "I destroyed everything we built." "Yes." She looked at the floor. "I'm sorry, Ethan." I took a slow breath. For years I had imagined hearing those words. Now that they had finally come, they didn't bring the satisfaction I expected. Only quiet. "I appreciate your apology." She looked up hopefully. "That's all?" I answered honestly. "That's enough for today." She nodded slowly. "I understand." As she turned to leave, I quietly said, "Take care of yourself, Chloe." She stopped walking for a second. Then she whispered, "You too." She walked out of the building alone. I watched the door close behind her. For a long moment, I stood there thinking about Olivia's words. Healing wasn't about reopening old wounds. A week passed after Chloe's visit. I buried myself in work again. It wasn't an escape anymore. It was simply the life I had built. One afternoon, Daniel knocked on my office door. "Do you have a minute?" "Of course." He handed me another report. "The investigation is over." I opened the folder. What did they find? Everything. He sat across from me. They uncovered fake financial statements, hidden debts, and illegal transfers. I slowly closed the report. "So it's over." He nodded. "Pierce Innovations is collapsing." I didn't celebrate. I simply nodded. "What about the employees?" "We're already discussing ways to hire as many as we can." I smiled. "Good." Daniel looked at me carefully. "You always think about people first. They're the reason companies exist." He stood. "I used to think that was your weakness. And now, I know it's your greatest strength." After he left, Olivia stepped inside. "I have a visitor." I already knew. "Chloe." She nodded. This time she's not alone. "Who is with her?" "Sarah Collins." I thought for a moment. "Send them in." A few seconds later, both women entered. Sarah gave me a polite smile. "Thank you for seeing us." "You're welcome." Chloe looked nervous. Sarah broke the silence. I asked her to come. I looked at her. "Why?" She sighed. "Because I owe you the truth." I waited quietly. Sarah folded her hands. "Years ago, I warned Chloe." Chloe lowered her head. "I told her Logan cared more about money than people." Sarah continued. "I told her expensive gifts don't prove love." I looked at Chloe. She didn't listen. Chloe shook her head. "No." Her voice trembled. I thought Sarah was jealous. Sarah looked at her sadly. "I wanted to protect you." "I know." Chloe wiped away a tear. "I was too proud to admit I was wrong." The room fell silent. Finally, Chloe looked at me. "Ethan." "Yes." "I need you to know something." I nodded. "I never left because you weren't enough." I stayed quiet. "I left because I believed money would make me happy." She laughed through her tears. I confused comfort with love. I could hear the regret in every word. I traded someone who believed in me. She paused. For someone who only wanted people to admire him. Sarah quietly stood. "I'll wait outside." She gave Chloe's shoulder a gentle squeeze before leaving. The office became silent again. Chloe looked around the room. "You really built all of this." "We built different futures." She nodded slowly. "I see that now." She stepped closer. "I don't expect another chance." I appreciated her honesty. "I know. I just wanted you to hear me say I'm sorry." "I already did." "No." She shook her head. "Not like this." She looked directly into my eyes. "I'm sorry for making you believe you weren't enough." My chest tightened. "I'm sorry for choosing someone else's money over your heart." Another tear rolled down her cheek. "And I'm sorry I realized your worth after I lost you." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I finally answered. "I forgive you." She closed her eyes. "You do?" "Yes." She looked surprised. "Why?" I smiled softly. "Because carrying anger only keeps me connected to the past." A small smile appeared through her tears. "Does that mean?" She couldn't finish the question. I gently shook my head. "Forgiveness isn't the same as another chance." Her smile slowly faded. "I understand. I truly hope you find peace." She nodded. "I hope you stay happy." She turned toward the door. Before leaving, she whispered, "Goodbye, Ethan." "Goodbye, Chloe." The door closed quietly behind her. A few minutes later, Olivia walked back into my office. She looked at me with concern. "Are you okay?" I took a deep breath. "I think I finally am." She smiled warmly. "I'm glad." I looked out the window. "The strange thing is—" "What?" "I don't hate her anymore." Olivia nodded. "That's what healing looks like." Just then, Daniel called my office. "Ethan." "Yes." "The court has frozen Logan's remaining assets." I stayed silent. "He resigned this morning." I closed my eyes for a moment. "And Pierce Innovations?" Daniel answered quietly. "It's finished." After the call ended, I stood beside the window overlooking the city. Years ago, I believed losing Chloe had destroyed my life. Now I understood something completely different. The life I lost had made room for the life I was meant to build. Logan had lost his company. Chloe had lost the future she once threw away. And I had gained something far more valuable than success. I had finally become a man. 5 years passed. Monroe Technologies grew faster than anyone expected. Every year we opened new offices. Every year more people trusted our company. Sometimes I walked through the headquarters and smiled. Not because I was the CEO. Because I remembered the man who once believed his life had ended after one heartbreak. One morning, Olivia knocked on my office door. Ready? I smiled. For what? The leadership workshop. Oh, I laughed. I almost forgot. She folded her arms. That's why I'm here. I'd be lost without you. She grinned. I know. We walked together toward the training hall. More than 50 young employees were waiting. Most of them looked nervous. I remembered feeling exactly the same years ago. Olivia leaned closer. They're looking at you the same way you used to look at Richard. I smiled quietly. I hope I can help them half as much. The workshop began. I stood at the front of the room. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. They answered together. I don't want you to call me sir. The room became quiet. Call me Ethan. Several people smiled. I wasn't born a CEO. A few people laughed. I made mistakes. I failed interviews. I doubted myself. I almost gave up. A young employee raised his hand. My name is Noah Carter. I smiled. My cousin. The room laughed. Noah scratched the back of his head. I still have a question. Go ahead. How did you keep going when everything fell apart? The room became silent. Every eye turned toward me. I thought for a moment. Then I answered honestly. I didn't stay strong every day. Noah looked surprised. I cried. I questioned myself. I wondered if I would ever be enough. The room listened carefully. But every morning I made one decision. What decision? I chose not to quit. Noah nodded slowly. So success isn't about never failing? I smiled. No. It's about standing up one more time than life knocks you down. Another employee spoke. Were you trying to prove people wrong? I shook my head. At first, yes. And later, I realized something. What? I wasn't competing with the people who hurt me. I placed a hand over my chest. I was competing with a broken version of myself. The room became completely silent. I didn't become successful because someone left me. I became successful because I finally believed I deserved a better life. After the workshop ended, Noah caught up with me. You really meant all that? I did. He smiled. You've always been my hero. I laughed. Please don't put that much pressure on me. I'm serious. You helped me believe I can build something too. I placed my hand on his shoulder. You absolutely can. What if I fail? You will. His eyes widened. You sound exactly like Marcus. I smiled. He told me the same thing. So failure isn't the end? No. It's tuition. Noah laughed. I like that. As he walked away, Olivia joined me. You've become a good teacher. I had great teachers. She looked at me thoughtfully. Richard would be proud. I hope so. He would. Later that afternoon, I returned to my office. Olivia entered a few minutes later. There's someone here to see you. I looked up from my desk. Who? She hesitated. You'll probably want to decide this yourself. I frowned. Who is it? She answered softly. Chloe. I remained silent. Olivia waited. You don't have to meet her. I thought for several seconds. Then I slowly stood. No. I stood outside my office for a moment before opening the door. Chloe slowly stood from the chair. She looked different. Not because of her clothes. Not because of her appearance. She looked peaceful. She offered a small smile. Hi, Ethan. Hello, Chloe. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I pointed toward the chairs. Please sit. She nodded. Thank you. We sat across from each other. She looked around my office. You've built an incredible life. I've been fortunate. She smiled softly. You've worked for every bit of it. I didn't argue. Instead, I asked, what brings you here? She took a slow breath. I'm not here to ask for anything. I stayed quiet. I'm not here for money. I nodded. I'm not here hoping you'll give me another chance. I appreciated her honesty. Then why are you here? She looked into my eyes. Because I owe you one final apology. The room became silent. She folded her hands together. I've spent years thinking about everything that happened. I listened without interrupting. I blamed other people. I blamed bad luck. I even blamed you. She smiled sadly. But eventually, she placed a hand over her heart. I had to face the truth. What truth? I made my own choices. A tear rolled down her cheek. No one forced me to leave. No one forced me to chase money. No one forced me to ignore the man who truly loved me. She wiped her eyes. I did all of that. I could hear the weight in her voice. I kept asking myself one question. I waited. What kind of life would we have built if I had stayed? I smiled gently. We'll never know. She nodded. No, we won't. She laughed quietly through her tears. I spent years believing success meant expensive cars, luxury homes, and famous friends. And now, she looked around my office. Now I know success looks different. How? It looks like peace. She smiled at me. You have peace. For a moment, I couldn't find the right words. Finally, I answered. It took a long time. I know. She lowered her head. I'm sorry for every night you questioned your worth because of me. I felt something inside me finally become lighter. I'm sorry for making you believe you weren't enough. You were always enough. She looked up. I was the one who couldn't see it. Silence filled the room again. Then I smiled. Thank you. She blinked. For what? For leaving. She looked confused. I don't understand. If you hadn't walked away, I looked toward the city outside my window. I might never have discovered who I was capable of becoming. Another tear slipped down her face. So you're grateful? I wouldn't choose that pain again. I smiled softly. But I won't pretend it didn't teach me something valuable. She nodded slowly. I finally understand. What do you understand? I didn't lose a successful man. She shook her head. I lost a good man. Those words stayed in the air between us. She stood. I won't bother you again. You never bothered me today. She smiled through her tears. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for being honest. She walked toward the door. Before opening it, she turned around one last time. I truly hope you're happy. I smiled. I am. She nodded. I can see that now. Then she quietly walked away. I watched the door close. A few moments later, Olivia stepped inside. She's gone. Yes. She studied my face. How do you feel? I took a deep breath. Free. She smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. I laughed. You already knew. I had a feeling. She walked beside me as I stood near the window overlooking the city. The streets below were filled with people chasing dreams, making mistakes, and searching for happiness. Years ago, I had believed losing Chloe was the end of my story. Now I understood it had only been the beginning. Noah's words from earlier echoed in my mind. You've always been my hero. I smiled to myself. If my journey could help even one person refuse to give up, then every painful step had been worth it. I looked at my reflection in the glass. I no longer saw the frightened man who begged life to be fair. I saw someone stronger, someone calmer, someone who had learned that forgiveness was a gift I gave myself, not the people who hurt me. As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the skyline, one final thought settled in my heart. The greatest revenge was never becoming richer than the woman who left me. It was becoming someone